right, Eric, let's kick things off with a bit of a throwback. BYD, most people know them now for their electric cars, but they actually started out making rechargeable batteries, right?
Yeah, that's right. Wang Chuanfu, the founder, was absolutely obsessed with batteries. I mean, the guy basically built the company from scratch in 1995, just focusing on batteries for phones and laptops. And then, in 2003, he made this bold move, acquiring Xi'an Qinchuan Automobile. That gave BYD a way into the car industry, which honestly was a bit of a gamble at the time.
It's wild to think about. I mean, imagine being a battery company and suddenly deciding, you know what, let's make cars. And not just any cars, the BYD F3, which, if I remember right, was super popular because it was affordable. Like, it just took off in China.
Absolutely. And funny story, I actually visited Shenzhen in 2004. Tiny electronics market, the kind where you can buy a phone battery and a bowl of noodles from the same stall. BYD batteries were everywhere. I remember thinking, this brand's going places. Little did I know they'd be making cars just a few years later.
And then they didn't just stick to regular cars. BYD went all in on innovation. In 2008, they launched the F3DM, which was the world's first mass-produced plug-in hybrid. That's a mouthful, but it's a big deal. And then the E6, their first all-electric car, came out in 2009.
Yeah, they were way ahead of the curve. But honestly, things didn't stay rosy. From 2009 to 2020, sales kind of flatlined, hovering around 400,000 to 500,000 cars a year. There were a lot of reasons. Government subsidies got slashed, competition ramped up, and, well, the market just got tougher.
I actually remember my first trip to China in 2012. I was in Shenzhen and I hopped into this taxi. Turns out it was a BYD E6. The driver told me it was all electric, and I was like, wait, what? In 2012? It just blew my mind. But yeah, even with that, BYD wasn't exactly smashing records back then.
Things really turned around in 2020 though. BYD launched the Han sedan, and the big story there was the Blade battery. It was safer, lasted longer, and was cheaper to make. That car just took off. Sales surged, and BYD actually outsold Tesla in global quarterly sales at one point in 2023. That's massive.
Yeah, and then in 2024, they did something no one expected. They overtook Volkswagen to become China's best-selling car brand. Volkswagen had been number one for, decades? That's a huge shift. And BYD is not just about cars anymore. They're building this whole energy ecosystem with batteries, solar panels, the works.
And they're not just staying in China. In 2023, they exported over 240,000 vehicles, and they've got plans for a factory in Hungary. Of course, it's not all smooth sailing. There's regulatory pushback in some countries, but BYD's definitely got its sights set on the global stage.
Let's talk tech for a sec. The Blade battery, DISUS, I think they call it now, has been a game changer for safety and range. It's one of those things that's actually made people less nervous about EVs catching fire, which, let's be honest, was a real worry for a while.
Yeah, and BYD's not stopping there. They're investing heavily in autonomous driving and smart connectivity. It's all about staying ahead, right? The car market's changing so fast, and if you're not thinking about AI and self-driving tech, you're basically toast.
And they're looking to expand manufacturing globally too. Hungary's just the start. I've heard whispers about other markets, maybe South America, maybe Southeast Asia. They're definitely not content to just be big in China.
Sustainability is a big part of their pitch now. They're working on making their manufacturing greener, integrating renewables, and just generally trying to look like the good guys. It's not just about selling cars, it's about the whole image,
Yeah, and they're not doing it alone. They're teaming up with local governments and tech firms, especially in emerging markets. It's a smart move, makes it easier to get through all the red tape and actually get cars on the road.
And they're pouring money into R&D, solid-state batteries, AI-driven systems, all that jazz. It's about staying ahead of the curve, making sure they don't get leapfrogged by the next big thing.
They're also building alliances with renewable energy providers. It's not just about cars anymore. It's about creating this whole ecosystem. If you buy a BYD, you're not just getting a car, you're getting a piece of this bigger, greener puzzle.
And they're on a global talent hunt, looking for the best minds in AI, autonomous driving, battery tech. It's a bit of a brain race, really. If you want to innovate, you need the right people.
Plus, they've set up a sustainability and compliance task force. Sounds a bit corporate, but it's actually important, making sure every part of their supply chain is as green as possible. It's not just talk, they're trying to walk the walk.
And they're not shy about telling the world either. BYD's rolling out global marketing campaigns, really pushing their tech and sustainability story. It's about changing how people see the brand, especially outside China.
They're also teaming up with local tech firms in new markets, joint ventures, co-developing EVs that actually fit local needs. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, which is pretty clever.
And they're investing in talent development too, training up people in AI, autonomous driving, sustainable manufacturing. It's all about keeping that innovation engine running.
So, when it comes to breaking into new markets, BYD's got a pretty tailored approach. They're looking at places with high EV potential, like Southeast Asia and Latin America, and figuring out what works locally, different cars, different features, that sort of thing.
And they're not just selling cars, they're engaging with regulators, trying to shape policies that make it easier for EVs to take off. It's a bit of a chess game, really. You've got to play by the rules, but also try to influence them.
And they're running big consumer education campaigns too. It's not just, here's a car, buy it. It's, here's why this tech matters. Here's why it's safe. Here's why it's good for the planet. Building trust, basically.
They're really zeroing in on markets where EV infrastructure is growing fast. Again, Southeast Asia, Latin America, places where demand's picking up. And they're tweaking their cars to fit local tastes and rules, which is smart.
They've even set up local regulatory teams in these regions. It's not just about following the rules, it's about being part of the conversation, helping shape the standards that'll affect their business down the line.
And the marketing's super targeted. Lots of focus on sustainability, safety, and innovation. It's about building trust, especially in places where BYD's still a new name.
So, big picture. BYD's not just making cars, they're trying to lead the whole green energy transition. They're partnering with global renewable energy providers, building things like solar and wind-powered charging stations. It's all about making the ecosystem as clean as possible.
And they're still on that global talent hunt. AI, autonomous systems, sustainable manufacturing. It's a bit relentless, but that's what you need if you want to stay ahead.
And they're not shy about telling their story. Big marketing push around clean energy and autonomous driving, trying to position BYD as the go-to brand for eco-conscious drivers. I mean, it's ambitious, but you kind of have to admire it.
Yeah, it's a wild ride. From batteries in a Shenzhen market to leading the global EV charge. I'm curious to see where they go next.
Same here, and that's all we've got for today's episode of Chronicles. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Eric, always a pleasure.
Pleasure's mine, Ruby. Thanks for listening, folks. Catch you next time.